Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The 1984 Ministry of Truth let us know division is cohesion, defamation is substantive debate, and the firewall, or I call it in my mother language, die Brandmauer, der Sperrgürtel, protects democracy. What this democracy looks like is becoming increasingly clear. Unpleasant elections are or should be cancelled. Clear election winners are not given the task of forming a government. In Austria, we had this as a good example. Opposition members are persecuted across the board. For example, through debanking. Practically all major social media platforms have been or are being pressured into pro-government censorship, and much more. The question arises as to which side of the so-called firewall the enemies of democracy are really on. Democracy essentially thrives in dialogue, the willingness to understand the positions and needs of other stakeholders, and the ability to form compromises on this basis. And unlike the omnipotence fantasies of Commission President Ursula von der Leyen or some European governments, democracy is not the dictatorship of the majority over the minority. Democracy protects the minority from the majority and even endows it with special rights of participation. To ensure that this character of exchange and compromise is also reflected in parliamentary practice. Not all key positions, such as committee chairs or rapporteurs, posts are allocated to the majority, but are usually allocated to the various parliamentary forces according to their share of the vote. The vote is in the middle of all our thoughts. However, all of these and more basic democratic principles are being undermined by the so-called firewall, sometimes more, sometimes less. We have now these problems in the legislative period. Although the Patriots for Europe are the third largest parliamentary group, we have still been denied a parliamentary vice president and various functions in the committees. The ESN group is in a similar situation. The voters of these parties are thus de facto not the one represented with their full right that they should have. The tendency of other political groups to vote against motions from the PFE or ESN groups as a matter of principle, as a part of the firewall, as well as the general refusal to engage in dialogue with these two groups. So it's various spectrum of examples I could give, but I would like to focus on the opportunities for citizens to participate, so that they can participate because they vote. The firewall has an extremely negative impact on both. We have the respect from our voters, but not here in the European Parliament. The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also let his audience at the World Economic Forum in Davos know, in no uncertain terms, we have freedom of speech in Europe, but not for those who support extreme right-wing positions. But who actually says what is far right? Do you find it questionable when drag queens give readings in kindergartens or early childhood? Then you are far right. Do you doubt that millions of immigrants from the Islamic world make our society a better place to live? You are far right. Are you worried about your and your children's future in view of the Green Deal policy? Also, right-wing extremist. In other words, this is fighting term refers to anyone who does not want to follow the left-green agenda or the great transformation. And that shows very clearly that the stigmatization as a right-wing extremist is not a term filled with content, but an instrument of power. And it's in this context that the firewall must also be seen, which is only demanded and applied where it serves to maintain the power of the left-green party cartel and its supposedly bourgeois stirrup holders. Now there is an interesting phenomenon in the relation to language regimes. Left wings constantly have to come up with new terms with which they can talk about their reality. This is because the public quickly realizes what is actually behind the terms and narratives. Also the narratives, there are a lot of examples. You know, they always talk about people coming to us with the best background, and they are all like the best researchers and they know everything. But when you say that it's not like this, you are a right-wing extremist. And in Austria, we can see that people have become resistant to these constant accusations. More and more people are simply seeing through this game of stigmatization, defamation, and exclusion. I'm therefore quite sure that citizens will also recognize the firewall or what it really is, and that undemocratic instrument of power that is intended to divide the society into black and white, or good and evil. In other words, precisely the simplistic world view of the left, which is in the end leads to mathematical certainty, to poverty or lack of freedom, usually both. So let us see the dilemma that we are in at the moment, and we can see it. More and more voters will switch to authentic patriotic parties. Sooner or later, the moderate conservative parties will be worn down by the firewall itself. And now coming also maybe to my home country, to Austria, the FPÖ became the strongest party in the last national council elections, with just under 29%. Contrary to the democratic custom of commissioning the strongest party to form a government, the federal president commissioned the election loser, the ÖVP, to form an anti-Herbert Kickl coalition. But it didn't work. So now we are in a very, very interesting moment now in Austria, and we will see what will happen in the next time in Germany. We are all looking to Germany, what will happen there. We are looking to other countries, best practice. So let's talk about Hungary, let's talk also about Italy. They were all talking about what will happen if the right will be at the top of the elections in Italy. Everybody is still going to Italy, is still eating Italian food, whatever, nothing, not at all what they were afraid of. So I can say that the firewall is harmful and it's undemocratic, it divides society, and who wants this in the end? So we have to be strong, to have an opinion, to stay not only here in front of you, but also in the European Parliament, and we we have to become masters once again of our own house, and better today than tomorrow. Thank you very much.